Welcome to Insightful Gaming, your one-stop shop for all things gaming. Buckle up, folks, as today we're about to spill the tea on an absolutely beastly barbarian build. This killer setup is just what you need if you're cruising around level 70. With this blueprint, you'll have an infinite stash of fury at your disposal, allowing you to whirlwind non-stop. Imagine pulling in all those pesky foes like a vacuum, only to get smacked by your colossal thorn damage. This build is a breeze to use, dishes out massive damage, and boasts crazy survivability. Plus, for your convenience, you can check out the complete build via the link below. But hey, let's cut the small talk. If you're digging this epic loadout and can't wait to put it to the test, don't forget to smash that like button, drop a comment, and hit subscribe to stay in the loop with more mind-blowing gaming content. Without further ado, let's get down to the nitty-gritty of our skills. First off, we're taking Whirlwind for a spin, our core damage dealer in this build. It's pretty sweet. Every time you land a hit, you rake in 1 fury, or 4 fury if you're going up against an elite. So, essentially, we got a non-stop Whirlwind party happening. And guess what? If you're brandishing a slashing weapon, Whirlwind will slice 40% of its base damage as bleeding damage over 5 seconds. Combine this with our Gushing Wound passive, which can amp up the bleed amount by 100% of your critical strike damage bonus. Plus, overpowering a bleeding enemy triggers a blast causing 11% bleeding damage over 5 seconds. Next up, we've got the challenging shout. Trust me, this is not just a shout. It's a battle cry that turns you into a true boss, taunting enemies to take you on while also granting you a massive 40% damage reduction for a whopping 6 seconds. But wait, there's more. This shout gives you 20% extra maximum life, and as if that's not enough, we also get thorns equal to 30% of our maximum life. Our strategy here is to pump up our max health to skyrocket our thorn damage. Moving on to Warcry, this bad boy boosts our damage by 15% and our allies for 6 solid seconds. But hold on, we're not done yet. We also unlock Berserking for 4 seconds. If we unleash this Warcry near 6 or more foes, we rake in an additional 10% damage, making it a total of a 25% damage boost. Or you can go for the other version, granting you extra health as fortified. Just remember, this doesn't boost your max health. Next, we've got the Rallying Cry, boosting our and our allies' speed and resource generation. We're also using Tactical Rallying Cry, giving us another 20 fury and a sweet 20% more resource generation. And now, for showstopper, our ultimate, Wrath of the Berserker. This turns us into an unstoppable beast, delivering tons of damage while making us unstoppable. This gives us 15 to 20 seconds of berserking, leading to a major DPS spike. With our build, we'll be able to flex our ultimate in every single brawl. To wrap it up, we're using Ground Stomp for crowd control. We'll stomp the ground for 10% damage, stunning enemies around us for 3 seconds. Plus, it also slices our ultimate's cooldown by 1 second for each enemy. This way, we can call on our Wrath of the Berserker ultimate sooner. Alternatively, you could swap Ground Stomp for Iron Skin with Strategic Iron Skill. It's up to you. I tried both, but Ground Stomp is my personal favorite. With skills out of the way, let's dive into our damage rotation, which is as smooth as butter and super easy to nail. To kick off a fight, dive headfirst into a mob of enemies, then release all 3 of your wars in their faces. Follow it up by popping your Wrath of the Berserker. Now you're in beast mode, ready to wreck. Next, start spamming your Whirlwind, and keeping your fury at max won't be a problem. And you can keep spamming your shouts as long as you're surrounded by foes. This is our go-to fury pump, but we also have some nifty passives in our talent tree that help keep our fury flowing. While you're grinding through this routine, you'll be dishing out some mad thorn damage, turning everyone on the battlefield to toast. Next, let's go over our technique slot. For our killer build, we're going with 2-hand axe expertise. This massive damage dealer is part of the weapon expertise lineup, a key piece of Diablo's arsenal system. It gives our barbarians some extra oomph when they swing those colossal 2-handers. With this expertise up your sleeve, you'll slam even more pain onto vulnerable enemies. Alright folks, let's zoom in and dissect this build and go over the talent tree. First up, we'll drop 2 points into Lunging Strike and enhance Lunging Strike. We won't actually use this skill, but we need to spend a couple of points to unlock the core skills. Speaking of which, let's talk core skills. We're going all in with 5 points in Whirlwind, 1 in Enhanced Whirlwind, and a cherry on top with a point in Furious Whirlwind for that sweet bleeding damage. On top of that, we're pouring 3 points into Pressure Point. This gives our core skills a hefty 30% chance to make enemies vulnerable 2 seconds. Next, our defense skills. A point each in Rallying Cry, Enhanced Rallying Cry, and Tactical Rallying Cry. Then we're powering up our challenging shout with a point in each of its enhanced version and strategic challenging shout. Same goes for ground stomp with points in enhanced ground stomp and strategic ground stomp. We're also loading up 3 points in imposing presence for that delicious 15% extra max life, boosting our thorn damage. A point goes into martial vigor, shaving off 3% damage from elites. This one is optional. Then we're dropping a point in outburst. You could drop 2 more here, but I feel they're overkill. Instead, we'll stack 3 points into tough as nails to boost our thorn damage by 9%. Plus, when enemies have the nerve to hit you, they cop an extra 10% of your thorns as bleeding damage over 5 seconds. This ties in perfectly with our Gushing Wound passive. Now let's talk brawling skills. We're opting for War Cry, Enhanced War Cry, and Power War Cry. We're also maxing out 3 points in Booming Voice and a point in Raid Leader to pump up our shout durations and heal us and our buddies. Then 3 points in Guttural Yell, making our shouts force enemies to deal 12% less damage for 5 seconds. This damage reduction is basically permanent since we'll be shouting non-stop. Next up, we're slotting a point into Aggressive Resistance for constant damage reduction. This pairs perfectly with our always active Berserking buff. We're also maxing 3 points in Prolific Fury to pump up our Fury generation by 18%. In the Weapon Mastery tree, we're sliding 2 points each into Pit Fighter for a 6% damage boost against nearby enemies and a 4% damage reduction from distant baddies. Then 2 more points into No Mercy for an extra 6% critical strike chance against immobilized, stunned, or slowed enemies. We're slotting a point into Hamstring. This is how we'll slow our enemies to crank up our crit chance via No Mercy. Next, a point in Thick Skin and 2 in Counteroffensive for more Fortify. On the ultimate skill tree, we're unlocking the Savage Wrath of the Berserker, followed by Prime Wrath of the Berserker for a speed and fury injection. Then Supreme Wrath of the Berserker to hike up our damage bonus every time we burn half our fury. Next up, 3 points in Heavy Handed for a 15% critical strike damage bonus when wielding our mighty two-handers. To round things off, we're choosing Gushing Wounds. When we make an enemy bleed, we get a chance equal to our crit chance, to double the bleed amount based on our critical strike damage bonus. This passive is a game changer since we'll be bleeding our foes dry with our Whirlwind and other passives. Okay gamers, let's take a deep dive into our aspect selection and the passives you'll want on your gear. Follow along on your screen as we navigate this epic loadout. Starting at the top with our helm, we're equipping the aspect of the Protector. Damage an elite enemy and voila, you'll have a damage-absorbing barrier for the next 10 seconds. Next up, our chest piece features the aspect of the Grasping Whirlwind. Picture this. Your Whirlwind pulls enemies towards you like a black hole. For your gear passives, prioritize cooldown reduction on this piece. Let's move on to our gloves. Here we got the unique Gore's Devastating Grips, which come with a built-in aspect. After your Whirlwind ends, it goes out with a bang, dealing fire damage based on the first 100 hits to enemies in the vicinity. As for gear passives, hunt for gloves with 2 or 4 Whirlwind skill points and some bonus critical strike chance. Down to the legs. We're outfitting our leg gear with the Numbing Wrath aspect. This bad boy fortifies you every time you generate fury at your maximum limit. Look for passives on this piece that buff your damage resistance. Your legs and chest are your bulwarks, perfect for damage resist or fury reduction. Don't forget your boots. Here we have the Ghost Walker aspect, making you swift as the wind, granting you increased movement speed when you're unstoppable and a brief period afterward. Plus, you can ghost through enemy mobs, perfect for those tight spots. Prioritize gear passives that bump your movement speed here. As for weapons, the magic words are critical strike damage, vulnerable damage, and additional core skill damage. For our hefty 2-hand bludgeon, we're slotting the Needle Flare aspect. This is non-negotiable. It allows your thorns damage to potentially harm all enemies around you. Perfect for our build. For our dual wield, we're running the aspect of Burning Rage and Death Wish aspect. Both activate while you're berserking, dealing fire and thorn damage respectively to surrounding enemies. And trust me, we'll be in berserk mode practically all the time. On the slashing weapon front, we're rolling with the aspect of the Dire Whirlwind. This gem ups your Whirlwind's critical strike chance the longer you channel it. Absolutely crucial. Swinging down to our neck piece, we're sporting the Disobedience aspect. Think of it as your protective barrier, upping your resilience and giving you an armor boost that lasts for 4 seconds. For passives on this one, look for gear that adds 2 ranks to your Tough as Nails passive for a Thorns damage boost. Cooldown reduction here is also a good idea. For our ring slots, the first is imbued with a Berserk Fury aspect, boosting your fury generation during berserking. And our second ring, We got the bold Chieftain's aspect, reducing the cooldown of your shout skills based on the number of nearby enemies. It's a literal lifesaver in the heat of battle. Passives on both rings should ideally focus on critical strike damage, vulnerable damage, and additional core skill damage. A quick note, here with Thorn damage as a bonus. Keep an eye out for it while considering the other passives we discussed. For our gems, we're going green with emeralds on armor for that extra Thorns damage. Alternatively, ruby for increased max life or sapphire for damage reduction, while fortified could be your jam. On our weapons, emeralds again for more critical strike damage to vulnerable foes. For our jewelry, we're bringing out the skull gem for some additional armor. Let's hop into our Paragon Points next. If you want to follow along, hit pause on your screen to see the full layout. Starting with our first rare glyph, we're opting for Exploit, a no-brainer for any self-respecting barbarian build. The scoop is this: for every 5 dexterity you stack up within the range, you deal more damage to vulnerable targets. Plus, any enemy you damage becomes vulnerable for a cool 3 seconds, but remember, you can only trigger this once every 20 seconds per enemy. Next, we're taking the Warburner board for a spin. It'll take a couple of rotations to match what you see on the screen, so again, don't hesitate to hit pause. On this board, we're aiming for the legendary node, Warburner. The deal here is for every 7 to 5 fury you spend, you gain a sweet 12% of your maximum life as Fortify. This is one of our main survival tricks on the battlefield. Our next stop is the insertable glyph Territorial. This bad boy amps up our damage by 10% to close targets and gives us a 10% damage reduction against close-range foes. Talk about a win-win. Our third board of choice is the Weapon Master. Feel free to pause the screen now. For our glyph, we are using the Martial Glyph. This gem gives us a whopping 125% bonus to all magic nodes within the range. Plus, it cuts down the active cooldown of every other shout skill by 1.2 seconds each time you cast a shout skill. That's how we keep those shouts rolling. Lastly, we're going with the Carnage board. Our rare glyph here is the Revenge Glyph. This handy glyph will reward us with a 100% bonus to all rare nodes within the range, and even better, it bumps up our Thorn damage. Consider this glyph non-negotiable and be sure to level it up to 15 to meet the 25 willpower requirement. That's it for today. Also, as a reminder for ease of use, I have the full build laid out on the link below. If you enjoyed this build and found it helpful, don't forget to smash that like button, drop comment below, and subscribe to our channel for more exhilarating builds and gaming content. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic rest of your week.